What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Today, guys, you're just going to get me, yours truly, Mike Spider Slayer, Comic Book Corner 2.0, and you're going to get Cat Comic Uno. Yep. And so today, guys, we have a decent amount of comic book news to talk about. And then we have a lot of comic book talk that we're going to be talking about this week as well. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we're going to listen to your guys' questions and comments as well. Please, guys, if you can, give this video or stream a like, thumbs up, let people know that this stream exists. And yeah, we're going to get right into it, kicking it off with the news this week. And then we will be going into the comic books.
Yes, so we have a lot of news, and I'm sorry if you're hearing my sink in the background. It's just making a lot of noise right now. But anyways, we have a ton of news to talk about. We're going to save our two main topics for the end. One is a media topic, one is a comic topic. So I'll just save one media topic when we talk about it. But let's start talking about some other media topics. So we have Kite Man from the Harley Quinn TV show is getting his own show. So Mike, have you caught up with Harley Quinn? Because it's an amazing show.
Man, I mean, I like it. I think it's a good show. I watched 3 or 4 episodes, but there's never a time where I can kind of watch it by myself. You know what I'm saying?
It's a little bit of a dirty show, for sure.
It's more than a dirty show. And I think it's a great show. I don't know though, honestly. Like, do you really need a Kite Man spinoff series?
Look, it's Kite Man.
I get he's like kind of a major player in that show, but I don't know, man. I think I think that is a stretch in my opinion.
I think you got to get further into the season. I think once you get to the end of season 1, you're like, oh yeah, Kite Man, because he's just the glue of the show. But there's a part of me that doesn't want it to happen because I want Kite Man just to be in the regular show. I don't need a Kite Man spinoff because I think he works as a supporting cast member of that show, but he is a standout for sure in Harley Quinn. And it's interesting because I feel like the show's been off air for such a long time. We've had a conversation about binge shows, and now that like Marvel and a lot of these other platforms are like, nah, let's do it weekly. That way people talk about it.
Right.
Harley Quinn didn't do that. It was kind of before that time. So I feel like, man, we haven't talked about Harley Quinn in a long time. No, actually they did do it weekly in season 2, but it's still been like over a year that show has been out because of the animation.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I'll have to get caught up and see how I feel, but I think it's a good show. I think it's funny. It's hilarious. And yeah, I wish maybe the actual comic was that good too, but it's not. So
yeah, I agree for sure on that one. I like the tone of the show a little bit more than the current comic. That I haven't read a current Harley Quinn comic in years. It's been such a long time since I read Harley Quinn.
Been a long time. We have quite a few viewers starting to catch on. So I just want to give them a shout out real quick. We got Get the Key comic is on. The Black Knight says hi. Adam says, what's up, guys? Michael's on, says, what's up, guys? We have Scott that's on there. He says, what's up, Mike? Jace Traver says hello. Mars Comics, hello, Mike. Hello, Comic Uno. Hello, everyone. And of course, Parker's Luck. What's that? That not so bad, Comic Uno. If I were on the show, you would be hearing my dishwasher in the background. That's a noise.
Yeah, dishwasher would be a lot. That would be a lot. You're just hearing my random sink, and I don't know why it's making that noise. But you know what? It's not too bad. And you guys are like, it's okay, Kat. And yeah. I'm glad you guys forgive me. You guys missing someone today? Yes, we are missing Brant. He let us know though last week that he wasn't going to make it, so it wasn't a surprise. But he'll be back next week.
Yeah, he had an appointment to get to, and it was out of town, so he wasn't able to make it back here today.
Exactly. But he already said, like, damn, I wish I was on this show because there's a lot of things to talk about this week, just from the big haul of comics and then also Miss Marvel, I think he really wanted to talk about. But it's so interesting. Me and Mike were talking about next week or tomorrow, where it's like, man, there's like no comics coming out. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Yeah, you have 10, I have 8. It's going to be a fun week next week.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into the next thing, which is you want to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's a first look for that. And then also with that, we learned that Darth Maul was actually supposed to be in the show. And
Yeah,
they're
Darth
like,
Maul.
nah.
Yep, he was supposed to be in it, but then you get the what are they called? I forgot their names. The Inquisitor? Yeah, that's what it is. And you got their whole gang in there. And those guys made their appearance in the Darth Vader series, which was pretty cool. So I think a lot of people are specking on some Darth Vader comics right now. But the trailer looked really good. I think a lot of Star Wars fans are really highly anticipating this show, just because it's almost like the series that you want. This is like a Revenge of the Sith like do-over where you have like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. Now Darth Vader's full-fledged Darth Vader at this point, and these two might battle it off again with each other. I'm really looking forward to it. Even though you didn't get to see any Darth Vader in the trailer, I still thought it looked pretty badass, and I'm looking forward to it.
And I know that people are disappointed with Boba Fett. I know people are like iffy about.
I did not finish Boba Fett yet. I think I'm in the fourth.
Not saying something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like I liked it, but it wasn't like blowing me out of the water. So, but I'm looking forward to Moon Knight, which is coming out very soon. So it's at the end of the month. I think it's coming out.
All right. Well, let's get into the next thing, which is there is a Penguin HBO Max show coming out. And you know what? After Peacemaker, I'm like, why the hell not? Maybe it'll be really good. And maybe it'll be like a mobster show. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot.
Listen, I haven't seen Batman yet. My son actually had. He went with a bunch of his friends over the weekend. He said I would like it. He said the Penguin was actually pretty cool in it. It's just one of those things that I guess they're going to be like, yeah, let's try it. Batman was so successful, and what's his face plays the Penguin? Who's the actor?
Colin Firth.
Colin Farrell.
Colin
Yeah.
Firth?
Yeah.
Farrell, thank you.
Yeah, and they said that he did a really good job on it. He was like unrecognizable in the role. So I guess I just don't know. Like, if you have Penguin in there, right, and you don't have Batman in the show, what's going to be the appeal of the show besides just Penguin being in there? So I guess that's my challenge of the show. You know what I'm saying?
Again, I think I felt the same way about Peacemaker, because it's just like, why the hell do we need this show? Like, why is it important? But I feel like I don't know who's going to be behind the show. If it's the director of Batman, I feel okay with it. Because it's like, oh, I'm just getting a continuation of Batman. That's what Peacemaker did. It was honestly better than the Suicide Squad, in my opinion. I think the show's better than the movie. And I was like, whoa, who the hell would have thought with John Cena and Peacemaker, this could probably be one of DC's comics' best television shows ever. So that's why I think I have a little bit more of an open mind with Penguin, but I think it really just depends who's behind it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into the other Warner Brother news, which, something we've discussed in the past is just now confirmed that Discovery is buying Warner Brothers. So I think the bigger question of this is, will this change DC Comics? What is it going to change? So I'm hoping for the better, because with Disney, everyone was worried, it's like, oh, everything's going to be kidified. And that didn't happen with the comics. And I don't think that's going to happen with DC Comics. But they have money to do things now. So I'm hoping that happens with DC Comics.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. And I hope, like, we're done with them shifting all over the place, and that it's just, Discovery's a pretty solid company, and that, like you said, they have the money to back them up to do what they want to do. Let's hope this fixes some issues. I just, in DC state right now, I kind of, we've talked about it before. I don't know what their plan is, and it feels like they don't have a plan. And I feel like it maybe has to obviously do with money, and maybe they don't have the right leadership, but there just definitely seems like there's things lacking there as a business and an organization, and just as a whole, and I would love to see them get back to even where they were when the New 52 launched. A lot of people say, well, that was the beginning of the end for DC Comics, but in many ways, they got a lot of people reading DC Comics again, or new readers reading it, and I feel like it got people excited about it in many ways too. So I don't know. They need to do something of that scale to get them back on board. Or how about let's skip the New 52, even the Rebirth, right? People were really excited about Rebirth, and right now I don't feel like a lot of people are excited about DC State at this moment in time.
No, I would even say like Batman. Like Batman's the thing that everyone could be excited for because it's the only thing they're releasing because there's so much people aren't excited. And even like I think that people are excited for Chip Zdarsky, don't get me wrong, but I think people would have been even more excited if it wasn't that Williamson was only there for like a few months. And then obviously Tynion left after planning to be there for over 5 years. He had a 5-year plan for Batman. So it's just like, oh, what's going on? Like, what is the plan? Because it doesn't seem like there is any.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if you have Batman, right, and you have less Batman titles, and we say this with any book that has a lot of titles. If you have less Batman titles, then you would appreciate the Batman that you have even more, and you have less people writing Batman, and you can have these other people write other characters, which we've talked about until we're blue in the face that we need other characters from DC to be there, to be relevant, and to people, for these characters to get introduced to people that have never read them before. That's the direction that DC needs to go. They just need their characters in the forefront once again.
We do have Tevye says rehire Tomasi and Dan Jurgens, let them write Superman again. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, great, let's get these writers back. But then there's a bigger part of me that says we already saw them, and especially Dan Jurgens. How much more can he say about Superman? I don't think there's much left to say. And, you know, I love these writers, but I don't think that's the answer because they were there and it still was in a state that it is now. You know, Tomasi was in a time period where I think DC was in a less interesting place. Like now I feel like, oh, there's a couple of books that I like, but back when it was the time where they were doing Future State, around that time where I was like, man, there's not much I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, man. We'll see what Discovery and then them can do. What's going to be their plan? What's their leadership? There needs to be a voice in DC, you know? And I also feel like that in Marvel too, ever since Stan Lee passed, I feel like these companies need a strong, solid voice to advertise these companies, to get people hyped about comics. You know, you got to have that spokesperson, you know, and I just feel like that's what they need, both of them.
And even obviously we're not dogging on DC, but giving some criticism. Going back to the Marvel thing, I think something we'll see a lot in the news this week is that they are doing the same thing over and over again. I remember back in the day when we started reviewing comics, there's people complaining about recycled storylines. And I was like, oh, maybe here and there, there's a recycled storyline. But now almost every story they do is recycled. And we're going to talk about that with the X-Men. There's an event that just happened last year, and they're like, let's do it again. But we'll get there when we talk about it. So let's actually move on to that topic in Marvel. That is the return of the Hellfire Gala. So that was interesting. I'm not going to read it because I'm really not reading many X-Men books. I'm going to pick up Immortal X-Men. I'm going to pick up Marauders, but other than that, that's it. I didn't really like the Hellfire Gala. I feel like that was the start of when this new era of X-Men went downhill for me.
Yeah, and then we're going to have another one that supposedly kicks off another huge X-Men event. And at this point, it's like, you got to really prove to me that this X-Men series has changed. The only thing that I'm excited about when it comes to the X-Men is the main title, because they're going to get Starfire back on there. That was the one that they wound up voting in there. So I am looking forward to that. And that book it's not a poor book, but there's like way too many plot points going on in that story right now. But it's not a bad book. It really isn't. Now, the surrounding books, I just feel like we need, again, just like Batman, we have too many X titles. We need to scale it down, focus on one or two main titles there, and be done with it. And I feel like you could get much better quality story that way. We don't need 10, 9, X-Men books. We really don't. We definitely don't need some other freaking gala again for the second year in a row.
We need 9 to 10 Spider-Man books. That's what we need. we don't need X-Men though.
There's one where I'll pick up, right, that had a really nice cover of Emma in it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to buy it now for that one cover. I saw it in there. I was like, yeah, there's one, but man, there's a lot. There definitely is.
I think I'm skipping it. I don't think I want it. Even for the Emma Frost cover, I'm like, I don't want it. I really didn't like the last one. I thought the last one had so much promise. We're excited about all the costumes. We're excited about all the art. And just every issue, you're like, where's this going? And it never really went anywhere, except I think Scarlet Witch died in that. And we're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
That was the ending of that.
Yeah. I did get all the costume covers, though. I did get all that.
They were nice. I think, if anything, at least there's some really good character designs for that. All right, let's get into the next thing, because DC has a lot of news this week. So, actually, let's do the one other Marvel news, which is Gail Simone is returning to Marvel and writing a Jessica Jones series, but it's a multiverse series. And yeah, no, I'm all for this. Return of Jessica Jones, return of Gail Simone. I don't love that Marvel's really relying on this multiverse stuff, though, because literally we had the Gwen issue this week, we had Miles last week, and now we have a Jessica Jones multiverse issue. Do we need this? I don't know, but I'm excited for Gail Simone.
I shook my head on it because, great, Gail Simone's back. And cool, Jessica Jones, right? But as soon as I saw multiverse, I'm like, no, we don't need more multiverse characters. Like, what are we doing, man? Why are we going into all these different, why do we need to see all the different versions of a character? Just freaking write the main character. Just do that. Just write the main character and have a story with that, and screw all the other ones, right? Who cares? We don't need 20 different characters of the same one, man. Come on.
It's because Spider-Gwen was so popular, they're like, we need to do this again and again and again and just see what sticks. And that is definitely not the answer to that. If there's no like idea behind it, and maybe there is for this one, I'm not saying there won't be, right, but it just seems like there's a lot of throwing of multiverses right now. And I think Miles Morales is what really gave the bad taste in my mouth, where I'm like, man, this book really was not needed. And I love Miles, and I thought it'd be really fun, but it just, I wasn't feeling it.
I just want Jessica Jones' story. Like,
from Gail Simone.
Great. Jessica Jones, fucking great. Multiverse story, down the tube. Don't need that stuff, man. Like, I don't. Because then what happens, it's like, oh, let's make a Jessica Jones Thor, and then let's make a Jessica Jones this, and Jessica Jones that, and Jessica Jones this. And then we focus so much on all those other characters that you think, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then you'll think that the reader's going to forget about the story, you know? So I just hope she does a good job with it, whatever she plans there.
Serenity definitely brings up a good point. They're doing it because of the Marvel movies. Yeah, 100%. They're doing it because of the MCU and because of Into the Spider-Verse. So they're like, oh, it's happening in the movies, we should do it in our books. Like, yeah, but it should happen organically in your books. Like, have an idea behind it. Don't just throw it out because, like, the movies are doing it. You have enough multiverse books that you can maybe redo the graphic novels, and show, like, oh, we're reprinting these things. I think that's more helpful for comic book stores and readers than just having a random multiverse story come out.
Have Serenity more original stories. Had a comment here. Put
it.
I got it. I actually enjoyed the Miles What If book and can't wait to read the rest of the series. His ongoing didn't work for me, but this does. It definitely has a story and a plot, but same thing. By the time I got done with it, that first issue, I was like, it's just like some multiverse machine that showed multiple versions of himself, and I really don't care for the rest of it. Yeah, it wasn't my jam that time, you know.
We do have a question here.
I'm glad you like it, though. Listen, I'll always say, and Kat will agree, if you like a comic, we'll never rag on you for it. That's what's so great about the hobby. We all have different tastes. We all have different likes, and it's totally up to you if you love a comic or not. So,
No, we just want people to read comics. Doesn't matter what you're reading. I think Mike featured this, or maybe I did through my magical powers. I don't know. But Mr. Shark says, "Do you think cover prices will rise due to gas prices?" I will say they don't correlate in that regard, but they're going to correlate because of the paper shortage. So the paper shortage is the reason maybe cover prices will go up because Marvel and DC and all these companies are now paying more for paper. So yeah. I think they can go up, and the gas price is going up. Man, sucks. It really does.
What they could do is they could do what Image does, or Saga and McFarlane's books, and they could sit there and literally just make a couple pages less, right, of the book, and that could offset your cost a little bit. Remember, because it's not always about what's in, how many pages the book is, right? It's about the dialogue inside the book and how much you fit in that page. So you could always fit more on the page. You could actually write something on the page instead of having like 2 words on each panel like they do sometimes. And, that can make up for it, because if Image can do it, honestly, Marvel could do it too.
Jay's Tabor brings up a good point. Increased gas prices equals increased freight costs. True. But I will say, well, I guess for the freight costs, it would be for domestic as well. I think Marvel and DC have an in-house printer. So I think for them, it won't be affected, but definitely there's other companies that will be affected by freight costs. With freight, it depends on how many books you get. So obviously with these companies, they're buying a lot and they're shipping a lot. But also with freight and the customs is usually where things get a little shaky with prices and timing as well. So there's a lot going on with that for sure. Comics should be $1.25 again. I'm going to tell you from the other side, just to print a book on my end, a cheap book would be $1.50, $1.80. That's really cheap. But most it's usually between $1.80 and like.
What if they were to get it like in newspaper print again?
That would make it cheaper, and there's few companies that do that. But the quality would be not great.
I mean, I used to love that newspaper print, man. I thought that stuff was pretty cool. I mean, nothing for nothing. I mean, you still got great artwork, you still got stories, but again, when you got people doing everything on the computer these days, it makes it much different, So
the look would be so different.
What's that?
The look would be really different because, like you said, it's not drawing anymore.
Well, here's a good one.
But it's digital drawing. Get rid of backup stories in a lot of DC titles and lower. Oh yeah, hell yeah. The reason they do is because they want to raise their prices.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's completely it's completely opposite what I say. It's like lower the page count. Well, DC raised the page count, so they gives them a reason to raise the price. So, but I agree. You could get rid of those. You could get rid of those backup stories and give you a story that you want to read, at least one story. So.
And I feel like with the backup stories, they're not doing, besides like Gotham Academy, I thought that was a really smart move. It was a cult character that probably couldn't hold her own book in sales, but they're like, let's put it in Batman. Like, people will be happy for this. It's also related to Batman in some sort of way. But then Ghostmaker, is he a cult favorite fan favorite character? I don't think so. Not yet. Right. So it's just it's not characters that are actually helping to sell the book.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into the next thing here. So Black Adam gets a new ongoing series and picks a new partner. So obviously there's a Black Adam movie coming out. So that's when we have a Black Adam comic book series. But this is written by Christopher Priest, who did that really great run on Deathstroke back in DC Rebirth. And interesting to see that he's going to be picking a partner. The artwork looks really good. I'm interested by this. I want to see what this is all about.
Yeah, I am too. Again, this is what we've been asking for: different books, different characters. Definitely piques my interest. All I can say is, I guess we'll wait and see, but I'm on board with it. Absolutely, I want to see this person that he picks. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's somebody we do know.
I would love that. And if he's an anti-hero, oh, literally, Jace Tabor says, is that Black Adam good or evil these days? He was in the Justice League last I remember. So I guess he's
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, do you see that much of him though? Besides that, I think he's in that gray area, right?
He definitely is. I feel like maybe this is the book that's going to explore that more. We did have a question from JP. JP says, any thoughts on Donny Cates' Thor run? We both love it. And I will sell this story. I did not like it in the beginning. And then I picked it up for Jane. And I was like, oh, this is really good. And it's one of my favorite books in Marvel right now.
Yeah, really good book. It's personally, I'm a Donny Cates fan, and I've been ever since he wrote God Country, and I just love his writing style. I love how he really goes out there and he doesn't hesitate to throw out his ideas and put them on the page, and it's paid off for him so far. So I like what he's doing with Thor, and I can't wait to see where he goes from here after this issue.
Sweet Access says, I hope it's Wonder Woman or Mary Marvel. I don't think it'll be Wonder Woman just because they're doing so much with her, which we'll talk about this week. And then Mary Marvel, it's been done before. She's been evil. So she also has another series coming out. It's been delayed, but
oh yeah,
she has another series.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's probably not going to be her. And I think she's like Shazam. So I think she's taken over that, then not just Black Adam. All right, let's go into the next thing, which is Joe, the Flash, the non-binary Flash, is returning for a Teen Justice book, and this is I believe this is the multiverse book. Yeah, this is a multiverse book. There's other characters there as well. There's a female super person, a Robin, some other characters I don't notice, but it looks like this is gonna be like maybe an Elseworld. I don't know. Maybe it's not an Elseworld. I think it's no, it is Earth 11 Heroes.
Yeah.
So I'd try it out. I mean, I like teen books, so why not? But
that's kind of where I was with it too. I'm like, oh, it looks kind of cool. Again, I'll say it until I'm purple. Like, I want different books. So why not try it out, right? At least the first couple issues and see where it goes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, definitely need to support these type of books so you don't just get Batman. We do have a couple other questions here. Mr. Shark says, do you think Dark Knights of Steel will get an animated movie? I'm hoping so. It's my favorite book this year. I think it's too early to tell because Injustice, it took a couple of years to get that movie. No one really talked about it either. So I don't know.
I would hope so. I mean, if it comes out, that's great. When, who knows? But I would love to watch it if it happens.
Twincast says we saw most of the team in last year's DC Pride. I don't remember that. The only thing I remember from DC Pride was Joe was in it with Andy from the Aquaman stuff. So I don't remember it. Maybe it was about a year ago, so I might just not remember the short story. Okay, let's get into the next thing here, which is let's see. Marvel gets another. Oh, actually, I should save that. Dark Crisis is getting a Young Justice tie-in. So we are getting another Young Justice book, kind of, and this is going to explore its past. It's going to be 6 issues, and I'm very interested in this. I am excited for them to explore things that we haven't seen in a while for Young Justice, and just seeing this team again. It looks like it's going to be the core members. The artwork looks really good for this book.
Yeah,
for the previews.
I saw those previews. Can you bring that up?
Yeah. Let's screen share.
In case people haven't seen it yet.
Yes. And also just was released today, but I was really impressed by that first page. So this one. Wonder Woman really
good. That looks really good, and then you scroll down and you see everyone in there. That's a nice looking page right there.
Which is impressive. Like, I'm excited for good art. And again, it looks like it's exploring all the eras of Young Justice. And I love Young Justice, and I think it's something we need. I want to see I'm going to unscreen share just to see who is writing this, if we have a name. So Megan Fitzmartin, who wrote the Tim Drake story and Batman Urban Legends, is going to be writing this, and Laura Braga, who's done some Archie stuff and I believe like Wonder Woman stuff, is drawing it. And I think this is some great Laura Braga art. And I really like the Tim Drake story. I think she's a good writer, so excited to see what she'll do with this. I'm glad she's got a bigger story to tell.
Yeah, I'm on board with this for sure. I saw that and I I saw that artwork and I was just like, yeah, I want to read this. This looks really good. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it is. I mean, this could be a tie-in that actually means something.
That's the hope, because it seemed like they were focusing on Young Justice so much in those teasers. So I could definitely see that. Let me see. There also is some other comments here. Give me a second. I saw one about Miss Marvel. I'm going to read it only because I don't want to not read it when we do talk about the trailer, but we're not going to go into the trailer until the end. But there's so many comments about the Miss Marvel trailer. Many don't like the purple powers. Others dislike Nakia is light-skinned and doesn't wear the hijab. I thought she did from what I saw, but maybe I misremembered. Some dislike Zoe's bullying and have been toned down. That her bullying has been toned down. I don't know. She was a pretty big bully in the trailer. She was not being very nice. But we'll talk about the trailer. I just wanted to give that comment out just before we do talk about it. All right, let's get into the next thing here, which is Poison Ivy is getting her own series again, and well deserved. It's been a while since we got Poison Ivy series, and I don't remember what she's up to. Let me see if we know who's writing it.
She just got put back to Whole in Fear State. That was the last time we saw her.
Right. Forgot about that. Also, G. Willow Wilson, speaking of Miss Marvel, is writing the stories. So I think that's pretty
sweet.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time we read a really good Poison Ivy story, we're going back. Shit, I want to say that book was like 5 years ago. I think
the miniseries. Yeah, the miniseries of Harp.
Yeah, it was really good though.
That was such a long time ago. I agree. Yeah, that was such a long time ago, and that is the last time I remember a good Poison Ivy story.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Like it started off with a road trip. I feel maybe no, you're talking about the life cycle one. That's
that one,
which was so long ago. That was good as well. That was really good. I love the art. That's probably the best Poison Ivy story.
That was a phenomenal read. I love that book. So good.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see if there's other questions. Did Tim Drake go out on a date with the guy in Urban Legends? I don't think they did yet. I think they've been in talks about it, but I don't think they've gone out on a date yet. Maybe we'll talk about it.
No, in that comic though, maybe.
Yeah, let's actually we'll pivot to that because that's going to be one of the next things we talk about. So Tim Drake is going to be in the Pride book, but also have his own special, which recollects the Urban Legend stories, and I believe has its own story with Batgirls and Young Justice. So for people complaining that Stephanie has not interacted with Tim, we'll finally get that interaction. And no, I'm very excited for that. And it seems like the date's going to happen. And I'm glad that he's getting a spotlight, especially now that he's going to be in Batman.
So this book has his previous Urban Legend stories in it all together?
I think they're collecting it. Yeah, which for me, I'm like, oh, I already read it. I don't want it. Like, I just want the new story, but I guess it's okay to have it in one collection.
I guess. And then there's other story. It's an anthology book then on top of it.
So there's the Pride anthology that's coming out, which the announcement is that Marvel and DC both have Pride books coming out again, which is cool. I'm glad that we're getting it. I'm glad it's not just a one-time thing. And Tim Drake is going to be featured in that, but also he's going to be featured in this Pride special.
Okay. I was confused on it. I'm like, why? It just seemed like conflicting. Like it seemed like the same thing, you know? It's cool. I guess like, well, think about it. If you didn't get the Urban Legend story and you wanted to know more about Tim Drake, since it was such a popular issue and
sold out too.
And I think that's something that you should pick up. And obviously it's coming out in June, right? Is that when it's coming out during Pride? Yeah. So then it's very fitting that comes out as well.
And also, again, it comes out around the time of the Chip Zdarsky run. So that's going to be cool as well. And maybe some of that will be added in that run. I'm excited for him. I'm glad they're giving story because I feel like as a queer person, I have not been loving the Superman being Superman son of Kal-El story. And I've had so much hype for it. And I still want to really like it. But I don't think they're showing like anything with the couple yet. And I feel like Jay was more of a character before John came out. Now they don't really like do anything. And I want to like that story more. And I like Tim's story more. I liked Urban Legends a lot. I thought they set
Mhm.
that up well. I think
Mhm.
they talked about his queerness a lot more. Like I like
Right.
that story more than I like Son of Kal-El.
Right. Yeah, Son of Kal-El is just, for me, it's not a well-written book. And that's just me. I don't
Mm.
think, like, when I look at Nightwing and I look at Son of Kal-El, I just don't get the same thing out of it. You know what I'm saying? And but for some reason, when you put it was like I read Son of Kal-El this week, right? And I felt that this issue was a little bit better because not just Nightwing was in it. And I feel like Tom Taylor writes a better Nightwing than he does John.
Yeah, and I think with the again the John stuff, they're trying to do too much. Like I feel like with the queer story, they haven't given us enough of that. They're trying to also tell this like political story with climate change, and they haven't done enough about that. He's also taking over his mantle with Superman. They're like trying to throw so much at you that's like, wait, I kind of want to like for you to pick that thread with Jay. I want you to pick that thread with, you know, the climate change. I want you to pick that thread with Superman. And they haven't picked any thread. Like nothing, because there's so much going on, nothing's going on. And that's been, I think, the hardship of that book. And I
Mhm.
want to love that book because I love Tom
Mhm.
Taylor and I love the idea of the book and I love what they're tackling, obviously. But so far, I think Urban Legends did a better job. And I hate comparing both because why are we comparing two queer stories when we don't compare two straight stories? But because we have so little queer representation, I did like Urban Legends. And they're both about bi characters, about two characters that are very popular as well. So, all right, so let's get into so those are the Pride books. Marvel has a Pride book as well coming out, which is cool. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with all of them. I will say let me see who is featured in the Marvel book. We have the Young Avengers coming back, which is cool, but no Carolina and Nico. I see them in the cover, but I'm like, man, I would like to see them because we don't have a book out with them
I
right
think
now.
last year we had both companies release their books
Yeah.
as well. They both had ones. Yeah. So I mean, it's cool. I think it's a very important thing uh, that we get that representation in comics these days, especially modern times, and it's just important. It's just I think it's necessary. People say that it's a forced agenda and whatnot, and you have your beliefs, and of course we have our beliefs, and you're entitled to your opinion. I'll never argue with you on that. It's just that I just think it is needed in today's world to have this representation. We just don't live in a black and white world anymore, so
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's
and
the
I
way I
think
look at it.
when it comes to queer stories as well, I love when people are like, that's all bad because it's queer, and they'll give you all these reasons. Like, there's bad queer stories out there. There's bad straight stories out there. It doesn't matter because it's queer. That's why it's like a bad story. It's like there's badly written queer stories, and there are really well written queer stories. And something that I think you see in anthologies a lot. You see it with Batman stories, like when you have the 100 pages of Batman. It's like, yeah, there's those 3 really good Batman stories, and there's like those other 3 I didn't like. And I think that's the same thing with the Pride anthology or with
Sure,
any anthology. It's like, oh
sure.
yeah, there's that one story I really liked, and then there's these 3 that I love. So I wish more people looked at, like, I don't know why queer stories have to have a higher standard than anything else. It's like if it's not a perfect A, then it's just like queer stories suck.
Well,
It's like
I think
what?
because what it is that there's so little of it,
Yeah.
and so you get one, and then right away it's, well, they all suck. Well, you do, because you only have a couple of those stories. You know what I'm saying? You have thousands and thousands and thousands upon comic books released every year, with straight stories. So, and you only get your handful of, the other stories. So, you know, that's why it gets amplified so much, Kat.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just so interesting to see that commentary and that people don't understand that perspective. It's like, oh, I didn't like that one queer story. Won't doesn't mean I won't like the other. Like again, a big example is like people comparing that the Tim Drake story is the same exact thing as the Superman story, and they both suck because they're queer. It's like, no, you could like one or the other. You could dislike both because you just don't like the story. You could love both because you love the story. It's like they're not the same thing just because
Yeah.
they're both bisexual. They're both
Yeah.
exploring different sides of the
You can like
character and
you can
written
like those
differently.
characters, but still hate the story.
Yeah, exactly. There's just keep an open mind when you read these things for sure, and not just judge the story because like it's queer, I'm gonna hate it. It's like, it's straight, I'm gonna hate it. You shouldn't think that way. Anyways, let's get into our last topic here, which is Miss Marvel trailer. And This was interesting. So I was really excited for the show, and I still am excited for the show. But after I watched it, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is made for me. Like the comic was very much made for everybody. Like it felt like I didn't feel like I was watching reading a kid comic. When I was looking at the trailer of the show, I was like, oh,
Did it seem too
I don't
young
think
for
I'm the
you?
audience. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt kind of young for me too. I mean, it felt very. I mean, I don't have. Listen, I'm old guy, but I don't have a problem watching like coming of age movies or high school movies. But this did seem very like Disney Plus, like almost the audience for my 10-year-old daughter. That's what this felt like to me almost. Like it went below that, you know. But I liked kind of seeing, Miss Marvel and like her power set and all that stuff, like getting to see that first look of the character. I only watched the trailer twice, so I couldn't get a really good gauge of the characters. Um, but I did feel that it was for even a younger audience than say below 15. That's the
Yeah.
way I look at it.
Felt a bit Disney Channel, but like well written Disney Channel, which I don't mind. And I will still watch the show. I love Miss Marvel. I will still watch it and see what it's about. The show doesn't have to be for me. I have the comics, I have everything else. This is such an important show for other people. And I know there are people complaining about the trailer because it's not perfect and it's like, oh, it's kiddified or whatever. And it's just like, can you just let people have their thing? And first of all, are you the person like the people complaining? Did you read Miss Marvel when it was coming out? Like, are you just saying this to complain? I think there's so many elements from the comic, which I loved. And I love that the supporting characters are still there. And I like that they look like teens. I really do like the idea that they do look 14. They do look 15.
I think that's the point. I really do
Yeah.
think they really tried to go for a really young looking cast to play those roles. I got this I got this comment here. Mike would know in school in the 80s and 90s, calling somebody queer was fighting words. Yeah, it really was. I mean, and you say that today, and it's very wrong to say some of those words that you said to somebody. But yeah, you can't do that today. Back then, it was rough, boy. Yeah.
I was definitely on the cusp of that. It definitely wasn't, maybe it was just where I live too, but it definitely wasn't highlighted like it is now. Like if you're queer in any way, like that's cool now because it's just like, oh, like it's very Gen
Yeah.
Z and like people are open, which is awesome, and I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I didn't have that
Totally
growing up.
totally different. Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as the 80s and 90s where
Yeah.
saying queer or gay was more of a slur.
Yeah.
It's so funny. There's a meme that's in like my generation, the millennials, where it's just like Hillary. There was a commercial where Hillary Duff says it's not nice to say like that's gay, and then she just canceled homophobia. So that's like the joke of like when that commercial came out, homophobia doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that was like I was kind of on the cusp of that, where it's just like it still happened a lot, and
Yeah.
definitely wasn't great to be out. Honestly, I don't think anyone was out really. There was one or two people out when I was in high school. But now it's such a different beast, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, going back to Miss Marvel, I mean, listen, I'm still gonna watch it because just because it looks like it's for a younger audience doesn't mean I'm gonna check it out. I've watched every single Marvel show at this point and movie. So I'm gonna watch it. But what did you think of her power set? I'm curious did it look like she had like amulets or bracelets on that gave her power instead of something else? Because you saw it click on her wrists, and it looks
I
like
think that's what
like constructs like Green Lantern does.
Yeah, I don't think they're making her Inhuman because the show fails, so they don't want to do Inhumans. And then supposedly they don't want her to have like the stretchy powers because they're gonna do the Fantastic Four, so they don't want people to be confused with Mr. Fantastic. So they're like, we have to make her powers a little different. I know people are complaining about it, but I thought it was fine. I don't care that much.
I don't care. I'm just curious to see like how she gets them and what's going to be that origin story, because obviously we read the comic when it first came out. We knew it came from the fucking cloud, and she was Inhuman and whatnot. And so So I want to know, like if it is from an amulet or bracelets or whatever it is, like does it come from lineage, or does she find them? Like I'm very curious to see. Does it go with her religion? Like I'm that's what I'm interested about.
Yeah, no, I think the thing I really liked about the trailer is that it really felt like the comic in those regards. Like it felt like, they were still exploring her religion, they were still exploring her family, and yeah, the powers are a little different and maybe they will happen differently. But I do like that. It really did feel like reading those first couple of issues of Miss Marvel, even if they, kitty-fied it a little. But I'm okay with that. We'll see where it goes. And maybe when we watch the show, like it'll have a lot more emotion. That's the thing I guess I'm a little worried about, is that will it have the emotional umph like it did in the comics.
Right. I mean, there was a shot in the trailer where it looked like she made her arm and hand look bigger. Yeah, I think it made it look bigger, but not stretchy.
Mhm.
Because in the comics, they make her arms like stretch and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. We'll
I
see,
agree.
man.
We will see. So that is all the news. We have so many comics to talk about this week, and very little to talk about next week, as we talked about. But we have a lot of issue ones. Me and Mike already kind of chit chatted about some of our feelings about some of the issues. Well, we didn't talk about which issues, but we
Yeah.
know we didn't all love some issues this week.
Now, just so you guys know, we do discuss with each other, on messaging or messenger about, oh, this book was good, this book about, but we don't go into any details and we don't give each other's top 5 away. Now, she does her weekly show, I do mine, but I don't read all my comics when I do my weekly show. That's just a top 5 that is temporary. And I can say that my top 5 actually changed as I read through my comic books this week. However, there were a lot of comic books that I disliked, and I was very disappointed with some. So we'll talk about that as it goes. Just to let you know, obviously, if you haven't read your books, there are going to be spoilers, but that's why we do this show on a Tuesday. We give you a full week to read them because we go into all the spoilers. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about
I
the
finally
first one.
found that banner.
There you
As
go.
you're talking.
Trials of Amazon issue 1. Kat, this was a bore fest for me. I read this first issue. I skimmed through the Nubia issue,
I didn't even
and
pick up Nubia.
I will not be continuing this. This was just a bunch of talking heads about discussing about tribes, and all this was a death that I could see coming from a mile away, because in the comic book we wind up finding out that Queen, I never know how to, is it Hippotwa? Is that how you pronounce? I don't know. She goes back, right? And she says, I'm not going to be queen again. That's what she tells Nubia, right? So it's like this whole time why she joined the Justice League, and she comes back and she doesn't take back her crown and everything else, was because this was all a setup for her to die. And this was a very convenient thing to kill her off, because she doesn't mean anything in the comic, right, anymore. So it's just like, let's kill her off, and then let's make this a detective book. And honestly, I could care less by the time I got to the end of it.
No, I felt the same exact way. I wanted to love this book because, we all want to read something other than Batman. So I'm like, of course I want to like this book. I want to get into Wonder Woman. But the only book I'll pick up is the Wonder Girl book. So there's that one tie-in. I'll pick that up, but I'm not picking any more of the Trials of Amazon. Yeah, I totally agree. Like the whole book up until the end, you're like, nothing really happens. And then you don't even know what the trial is. They're really just bringing everyone onto stage. And then, oh, she dies. I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine. There's definitely not enough for where I want to read the next issue.
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete bore fest. I was so disappointed with it. I give Wonder Woman so many tries, right? And I just always get burned by it. Wonder Woman's my
We'll keep
favorite
trying.
character, and I can't stand the current Wonder Woman books. That's sad, That's really sad for a Wonder Woman fan, and I'm sorry about that for you because you deserve a good Wonder Woman book. And out of all the Wonder Women out there, right? You got Diana, you got Nubia, you got Yara, you got Donna Troy, you got Artemis, you got all these different Wonder Women out there, and you can't seem to get one that you'll enjoy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Grateful hardly. Hopefully that changes in the future. But again, for the Wonder Woman fans that have been enjoying it, I am happy to see that they're doing something a bit more with the character.
All right. Pretty cool. So let's see. We got the next book. Excuse me. I enjoyed a lot, and this exceeded my expectations. And people, this was the talk of the week because we didn't know what we were going to expect. People were like, guys, is Marvel pushing their political agenda? Punisher's going to be a wimp. And so we get Punisher issue 1.
This is the way to do organically. This is a way to this is a way to organically tell like a political story, let's say, and make it about the story. This is like, you could tell it was well crafted.
It was a well done story. Like, honestly, like if you felt like Punisher was going to be this wimpy character, yeah, no, that was not this book whatsoever. This book was very well done. They made it a thing to make it a very dark book, and you get to see the whole story of how Frank Castle was recruited by the Hand, what his motive was, right? And just the whole battle between him and all the ninja was absolutely phenomenal. Just a really good book. And even from the opening pages where you got that 2-page spread and you got to see when he was almost got murdered and his wife got murdered, and you get to see all the covers and things that has happened with Frank Castle over the years, was outstanding. And by the time you get to the end of that last page and you see, his motive now, or why he joined the Hand, was because they promised to resurrect his wife. How does that turn out into the future will be a whole other story. But I love that story, and I thought that was really intriguing.
Yeah, no. If you're not a Punisher fan, this could make you a Punisher fan. I think it explained the character well enough. It did something different with the character, which is what we keep asking for. Stop recycling stories and do something different. And it was different. And then opener, going back to it, I just thought it was so chilling because it was about gun violence. And it was about exactly what Marvel was trying to say. It's like, this is why we're not using guns. But it did it in such a proactive way, and it did it in an organic way where it had a real story to tell. And I was like, man, I'm glued, and I do not care about Punisher at all. But you got me to care about Punisher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Punisher fan myself. I think he's a pretty badass character, but there hasn't been an interesting story with him in quite some time. So this put a different spin on the character. We always say, I hear it all the time, I want something different. I want something different. I want something different. And then when there's something different, people complain.
I don't want the same thing,
right? And then they're like, "Oh, this is not the Frank Punisher." So what do you want? Like, this is different, but kind of keeping the character the same at the same time, right? I mean, he's still ruthless. He still does the same stuff that he did before, except he got his ninjas to capture all the bad people for him, right? And he still killed all those people. In the book, you still saw all his guns. That he still has the vest. He still has all those guns, and they're in his room, maybe to remind him of who he is at his core. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's why that's all there. But again, I thought this was great, and this was a cool direction to take the character, at least in my opinion, anyway.
I agree.
All right. So let's talk about Radiant Red, issue 1. I was disappointed with this. I thought it was okay, but this book as a whole was just, I don't care if you're trying to move out of your house and you're moving to some other place with your husband, like, I know your husband was a gambling problem and that's why you robbed all those banks to begin with. We got all that in that one shot. And here it was just, hey, let me go talk with my sister and blah, blah, blah. And then she gets this ultimatum from this guy, be like, you need to do this job for me or I'm going to kill your whole family. And she's like, no, I can kick your ass. And she walks out and she thinks like nothing of it. You know what I'm saying? And then it was just like, well, maybe I should go and meet up with this guy after all. And she like leaves this random note like, oh, I'm getting ibuprofen at 1:30 something in the morning.
I
Like,
thought she was done with her husband too. I thought they separated, but I guess not. I was a little confused by that. But
the pacing on it was weird. I thought like she left him and then it's
yeah,
just, and the artwork wasn't the best.
wasn't as strong.
The characters seemed like they were super young, like they were like 12 years old.
It's very bulky. And I will say, after reading Radiant Pink, I wish I had a series with her instead of Radiant Red. I think she's such a more interesting character to follow. But yeah, no, this was okay. It gave me enough to read an issue too, because I'm reading the other Radiant stuff. But
Yeah.
I agree. I was a little disappointed. I wasn't surprised I was disappointed because I didn't love her origin story. I thought there was better issues there. So I kind of got what I expected in that regard.
I enjoyed the origin issue, and I think we really didn't need more than that one issue. I don't think we need a 5-issue story arc with her, right? Her most interesting story is that her husband is a gambler, and the reason why she robbed those banks was to pay off his gambling debt and they can restart their life. That she really isn't a bad person. She had a purpose behind it. And I thought they told that story really well in that first issue. And in here, it's just like, well, let's continue that. And I'm like, do we? Not really. Do we really need that? But I'll continue to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like when she escapes now that she's not in this, story beat with her family. She's going away. So that might be more interesting.
Right. All right. So let's talk about our number 5. What was your number 5, Kat?
Mine was Thor. So this issue, a lot happened. We get to see, I will say, because we knew that Odin died in the last issue, this is a little slower because of that, which is why I just made number 5. But the beats that hit about the father-son dynamic was so good. And then obviously the cliffhanger, it's like, whoa, okay, that's interesting.
So the hammer is no longer the hammer.
Yeah, it's Odin.
Now it's Odin. And it's like, what? Like, that's what I'm talking about, Donny Cates. He has no fear about going to places that no other people may have done. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, do something
literally
different.
Changed the history of this hammer that's been this way since the existence of Thor. And what are you going to call the hammer now? Are you going to call it Odin?
Maybe I'd be Odin the Hammer. Oh man, I never thought about that. Maybe they'll still call it the same name. But...
Mjolnir? I don't know. Mjolnir. I never know how to say it right, but
I never know how to say it right.
I
know how to spell it, but I never know how to say it.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, seeing him get that, it was funny. They called it the Odin Force, and seeing him get the Odin Force and him destroy the hammer was, you could tell it was very heartbreaking for him too to do that, because this is something that he's had forever. And then he just goes into that eternal sleep or whatever it is, or the 4-month sleep. And then he wakes up. And I compared it to like Obi-Wan talking to Luke Skywalker. I kind of compared it to that. Like it's the Force,
Yeah.
So
that's true. And also like the father-son dynamic has been so interesting, over the years. So just to see that they're going to always have to interact is going to be a very cool thing to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. So really good book. So my number 5 was the King and Spies conclusion.
It's over. Was it a good end?
It was a good end, and Brant should read it. And at the end, it was also a father-son story, because it's about the father trying to capture his son trying to capture his father, just because he's just been a total asshole and he feels like he's got to get revenge on him. And then at the end of the day, he winds up capturing his father. I don't want to spoil it, but it's like the son has a change of heart, and you get to see that at the end of the issue. And it was it was really good. I had a blast reading this book, and I was kind of touched by it as well because, again, at its core, it is a father-son story. So I really enjoyed it. It's only 4 issues. When the trade comes out, if you guys haven't read it, go ahead and read it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it for Brant because he said he might read it. And I tell him Brant right now to go ahead and pick this up. I think he would like it.
Hopefully he gives it a read, and I'm glad a Millar book ended well.
Yeah, and on time.
And on time.
Yeah. Tevye goes, where's Donald Blake?
They ended that arc well.
Yeah, they ended that arc, and Loki, I think, would trapped them right somewhere down below. Yeah.
It was definitely like you understood it was an arc that was over.
Yeah, but he's going to come back too. I have a feeling he's going to come back
by the end.
All right, so let's move on. So we're going to talk about the next number. The next number one. We have three more number ones in a row to talk about. So Captain Carter issue 1. So guys, in the comments below, if there's any of these titles, all these new number ones that came out that you're going to drop it or keep it, let us know. Very curious. So again, first one is Captain Carter issue 1. So here we get Peggy that comes out of the ice, basically just like Captain America did after, all these years. And she's just trying to be recruited to be a superhero. And she's kind of has reservations about it. She's living next door to this neighbor that kind of knows who she is, but can't quite put a face to it. And by the time we wind up getting to the end of it, she saves the day. It was okay. It's a big setup to obviously let you know that she's going to be Captain America. I mean, that's basically what it was, or Captain Carter, right? I mean, I didn't get that much out of it.
I like the slice of life stuff when they focused on that, her just getting used to new life, and that it was from a British perspective instead of an American perspective.
Sure, yeah.
I agree. It didn't blow my mind. I thought the artwork was pretty solid, and it gave me enough for an issue 2. That is, I'll say it was unique enough for a multiverse story. I was like, oh, this was fun. It didn't, again, wasn't like, whoa, you got to pick this up. But I was like, cool, I'll pick up issue 2.
Because it was just set up. And you can kind of obviously, it was very predictable. You could see where it was going to go. Present the job to her, and she's got to think about it. And we got to get a little bit of the supporting cast in there. But I agree with you with the everyday life situations, her trying to get acclimated to the world. That's the stuff that appeals to me, So I would love to see more of that stuff. So I will continue to read it as well. All right. Next, we go on to Naomi season 2, issue 1. So I was very hesitant about reading this book. I didn't know what to expect, but I actually like this issue, and I'm actually going to be continuing it because we get to see Naomi going to see her psychiatrist and her dealing with her situation as being a superhero, having a tough time dealing with her father. And her her psychiatrist makes it a good point, being your father had to get used to you growing up, and now he has to get used to you being a superhero at the same time. And I thought that was very touching because, that's an adjustment that every parent has to make in their life is you have to get used to your kids growing up and they're not little babies anymore or little children. And I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought that was some pretty powerful stuff. And then we see her friend D that was supposed to come to dinner, and then he winds up going missing at the end of the issue. But I thought this was an emotional book. Huh?
Because it made the dad as well. That was like the cliffhanger is like maybe the dad has something to do with it.
But I don't think it is.
Yeah, no, I don't think they'd leave it off like that. I think it's just like he was there at the wrong time. But no, I agree. I think the thing I was most impressed with this issue is they were able to talk about Justice League and Young Justice like it happened without it bogging down the whole story. It's like, yeah, that happened, but let's move on and talk about the more important stuff of how this family dynamic has changed and how Naomi's adjusting to being a superhero and being a regular teen. And the artwork is gorgeous for this book, and I really liked it. It was, I would say, just as good as season 1, and I really enjoyed season 1. So I hope it continues on this stride. And maybe it's helpful that Bendis doesn't have as many books that he's writing.
Well, here's the issue. So when Naomi is grounded, it works. You know what I'm saying? That's when this book, that's what made this original story so well done, is because she was a grounded character. We didn't take her all over the place. And then right away, when her season ended, it's like, let's put her in a fucking Young Justice. Let's put her in freaking Justice League. Let's put her here. Let's put her there. No, this is what makes a good book, is her being the way she is right here. And that's what made Miles Morales really good too. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I like. I like this book. Let's hope it continues this way, right?
We do have a question from Adam. Would you recommend Naomi season 2? Yes, but I will recommend it's not new reader friendly. You do need to read season 1 to read season 2, but you don't need to read the Justice League stuff. You don't need to read Young Justice. Just read season 1 to pick this up.
Absolutely. Go ahead, read season 1, and I guarantee you will like it. You will really enjoy it. If you like, grounded stories, this is something that you will really enjoy. All right, so let's move on to the next number 1. Little Monsters issue 1. This is Jeff Lemire's book.
I was disappointed with this.
Okay, so I was too, because it didn't give you enough. Right?
It didn't give you anything until the end. I didn't even know they were the only people in the world until you're like, oh yeah, and this guy showed up. I'm like, but do I care? Like, they shoved so much at one time, where there was like 10 characters. I'm like, okay, who are you? And they're like, and here's this guy. And I'm like, okay.
You didn't know. See, when I read the synopsis on the book, I knew they were the only kids on Earth, and I also knew that they were vampires. So I knew that going.
I got the vampire part pretty quickly,
and so they're forced to live on their own. And I like the black and white with the touch of red aspect. I thought that was really unique, and without calling it black, white, or red, like Marvel does, I just thought that was interesting. But honestly, you just get a little bit of these kids on how they've been doing the same thing, and it seems like they've been waiting for their leader all this time. And now they feel like they need to move on. And now they found this guy here. I don't know who that guy is, whatever it is. But I will continue this. I want to see where this goes, because Jeff Lemire has a great track record of his stories. So I want to see how this develops.
See, I don't know if I'm going to pick up the next issue, especially if it's in a type of week where it's like 16 books. I'm like, I don't know if it really gave me anything to what I should do. If there's very little books, I'll pick it up again. But if there's not, I'm going to probably skip it.
So BDG said you just had it up. I flipped through a couple of pages of the book at my shop and said, nope, I need color in my life. I can tell you.
I like black and white sometimes.
I mean, did you read Walking Dead? Or, you know what I'm saying? So, like, don't let black and white comics deter you from a good story. Back in the day, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Again, The Walking Dead. Like, some of the best comics written are, black and white. So don't let that deter you. So
yeah, and I think with black and white, especially coming from a Kickstarter background, indie background, there are times where people make black and white comics because it's cheaper, but there's times where black and white actually means something. Walking Dead's an example. This is obviously an example. Terry Moore's black and white books are an example. So there are good black and white books out there, and then there are just some where like I didn't want to get a colorist.
BGC says, I'm reading Deluxe, LOL. So, like, again, if you never read, the black and white Walking Dead, then obviously now you're reading Deluxe. And hopefully you're enjoying it, because it is a phenomenal story.
And black and white manga makes a good point. Yeah, manga is all in black and white. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. All right, so let's move on to our number 4. What was your number 4, Kat?
Mine was 7 Secrets. I know you don't read it. This issue was good. It was pretty much an anime come to life. The secrets are out. There was a good scene between him and his bully. His bully dies, so that was kind of sad. But we find out that Casper himself is actually a secret. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so he's a secret. I was like, man, that's an interesting twist.
What case did he pop out of? Case number 1?
We don't know yet. It's just the ending where it's just like, we didn't want to tell you this, but you're connected to the secrets. And it makes sense because there's a demon that comes out of one of the other cases. And I think you read up to this point when he went into that weird world and there was all these demons.
Yeah.
I believe that demon comes from that weird world. So we're definitely getting answers in this issue.
Okay. Gotcha. That's interesting. All right. So, all right. That was your number 4, right?
Yep.
Okay. What was mine? What did I say it was? Oh, Strange Academy. Issue 17. Strange Academy, always really good book. In this issue, we get the aftermath of what happens between Doyle and Emily after Emily stood up Doyle at the dance, right? And this was all because Calvin, who's the kid that lost his magic, winds up getting expelled, and she felt like she needed to be there for her friend. And then you wind up seeing this whole Doyle's all pissed off, and Doyle is the son of Dormammu, Cat, the big Doctor Strange villain.
Yeah, I remember that from issue 1.
Yeah, and so they wind up like fighting each other, like all the kids and Doyle. They wind up fighting each other. It was absolutely insane. Just a really good book. I love all the character work in it. It's a great book, man. And there's one issue left to go before this whole thing wraps up. So yeah, this was
right, because they have their season 2. So
yes, correct.
It's ending. Yep. Just have a little bit of a break.
Yeah. So good book. Always a favorite of mine. All right. So let's continue now and go on to Devil's Reign, issue 5. So obviously, if you read that one issue, right?
Spoiled it all.
Here, it said Matt Murdock dead, blah, 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 blah. But it is what we thought it was going to be. It was Mike who was the one that winds up getting murdered at the end. And that's what we talked about the week before. And that's very predictable in my in my point of view. Now, if we weren't spoiled, I think that it would have more impact, but
it'd still be rushed. Because when did they set that up?
But I wouldn't be like, oh God, Mike is dead. I'd be like,
exactly.
Good, he's dead. I don't give a fuck about that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care.
The background of that book, like the Daredevil book, I'm like, anytime he was on screen, I'm like, oh, let's just move on to Elektra.
So now he's not there anymore. Okay, who cares? Like, and then what's going to happen is Fisk is going to find out that it's not him, and
then Matt Murdock will have to hide or something and only be Daredevil.
Yeah. So I thought the way he got killed was pretty good. I did like that.
But also kind of ended abruptly, though. That page, it felt like there had to be another page. I'm like,
I was flipping,
missing a page?
And I'm like, oh, that's right? It. And what was it? Kirsten was at the entranceway.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's why you could think that it was Matt, because that's who I think she thought it was. Because wasn't he at Matt's house?
I think so.
I do think for that stone or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a conversation beforehand. That's how you know it was him. And then Kristen walks in. But yeah, and then in the end, the paneling was just so weird because you're like, is that it? What? Like, I don't know. Maybe they just needed the end. There was just something up with that page. It looked super weird.
Yeah, it just ended. I was like, wow, that's it. It's over. Right?
And then also the rest of it, they spread this event so thin where it's just like, oh, here's this one character. Right when someone gets interesting, oh, let's move on. Let's go to the next character. And that's why I really disliked this event. It took away from the Daredevil I've been enjoying just to have an event. That's called Devil's Reign.
Right. Yeah, comment here. By watching shows like these, I can put away my books and still know what is involved in the story while I'm working with my hands and have you on as background noise.
Love that.
Yes.
Be productive as you listen to us.
Absolutely. And then there was another comment. Strange Academy comment. Oh, sorry. There it is. Is Strange Academy better than the Teen Titans? Oh, hell yeah. There's not even a question that Strange Academy is better than the Titans Academy book. This by far.
One's going on still, and one's not. So that
tells you something. Yeah, exactly. What was the point of Devil's Reign event?
Honestly, good question. I'm not really sure.
I mean, to make Wilson Fisk hate Matt Murdock? I mean, I guess
I think it's just to have more people read Daredevil. Like, I think that was the point. I think it was just like, oh, Daredevil's really good. Let's have an event.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Overall, the Daredevil run is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe this event was really a stretch to extend the story longer. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of, if it's not has to do with anything with Daredevil, it's like I feel like the other characters that are in it are just there, right, to fill up space. It's like, oh, in this, especially in this book, it was like, ooh, let's all fight each other, and that's all it was them just battling each other, which made for some cool art, but it didn't add anything to the story at all. Nothing. So the only thing that was there for the story was, again, the end of the book. So we have one more issue to go here. So we'll see what happens.
I'm just excited for the other Daredevil, the new series.
Yeah. All right, Kat. So let's talk about Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 9.
This is the Nightwing continuation.
Yes, correct. What do you think about this one?
I didn't like the beginning. I thought it was kind of slow, but I liked the ending. I thought that was really interesting when they finally kind of had a talk about Nightwing being Batman and saying, hey, I get it. And I was like, why wasn't this the whole issue? Because that was good. I really enjoyed that stuff. And then everything else I didn't really enjoy. It kind of was going back to biting off a little bit too much that you can chew.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, it was kind of, I don't know. It was just like one of those books for me where it just continued a story where it was like, do we need Nightwing teaming up with Superman right now? I get that they had this relationship and like Batman wants Nightwing or to look over him or whatever it was. I don't know. It was kind of weird at the same time. It wasn't my favorite story there. I mean, it was okay.
I'm curious to see next week's with Flash, you know,
right.
Why are they?
My only issue is like, it's like John was hoping that somebody like Nightwing would come save him when he was in exile for how many years was it? You know,
I wouldn't picture Nightwing saving me. I would picture like my dad saving me. Your dad's Superman. You would think like that's the guy who's going to save you.
Why would you not say that? You know, like, so I didn't get that point of it. So it was a little bit weird. And it's not like he was best friends with him. He only met him like one time. You know what I'm saying? So it's just weird. The best part was when Dick pulled out the lollipop. Like, where were you hiding that, bro? There is no.
I will say I like the lollipop. I like the lollipop scene. That was good. But I think they talked about it last issue where it was just his utility belt. Although for Nightwing, I don't think he has a utility belt.
No, he does not. So where did he get it? Wasn't he wearing normal clothes at that point too?
Oh God, I guess it was in his pocket. But yeah, there was no wrapper. I think there could have been a wrapper because that just doesn't seem sanitary. I hope John does not.
You don't take candy from strangers, man.
No, you don't. And Nightwing's practically a stranger. So
that's kind of creepy, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I would want to wrap the lollipop. That's what I would want.
Yeah, man.
Then I'll take it.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. I don't know. So not my favorite. Like I said, I read it. It was there. I just want Nightwing to get back on track. And we're, like you said, we're getting this Flash book now. And so, like, come on, let's get back on track, man. I don't want Nightwing to suck again. And I love Tom Taylor, but come on, man. Let's get back on track here. All right. So let's move on to number 3. Where's yours, Kat?
Mine is Punisher. We already talked about it.
My number 3, I think, was Thor. Yeah, mine was Thor. So we talked about that too. All right, so let's get back into this book right here.
I think this is the one we're going to disagree on because I saw a comment on one of your things and I was like, oh man, okay, got you.
You like this book?
I liked it. Okay, I have reasons. I have reasons why I liked it.
You liked it only because Gwen is in it and you do not like Gwen. Good
I had
Lord.
other reasons, but mostly it was Gwen. No, the big reason I liked it is because I was going into this thinking it was going to be a Miles Morales book where it's just like random people coming in. But I like that there was a thread. I like that it had to do with her actual life. It had to do with her wanting to escape Earth 65. I like that there was
Once
stuff with Mary
that
Jane.
part happened, after that on, that's when the book fell apart for me.
But it connected the dots because she's like, oh, I can't be like that Thor because, you know, she's so confident. At least she like compared it to what was going on with herself, which is why I was really impressed with this book. I enjoyed it.
You like these villains too? This like glam goblin thing?
I mean, that part was the only part I didn't like. But that was only like 4 pages of the issue. So that didn't take up too much. I didn't like that part.
That's a lot. That's like a quarter of the book. That's a quarter of the book.
I loved everything else.
I did not like that. I liked a quarter of the book when she had issues with herself and being able to please everybody, and her going through the portal and she feels nothing. Like, it looked like she looked at the portal as a drug. That's the way I looked at it. Like,
which I loved. I thought was great.
But once she met Spider-Zero, like, no, I was
impressed with that though, because again, at least it was a story about something. You get the Miles Morales story, it's like, why is he Captain America? I have no clue. And there's other multiverse stories we've had recently where I'm like, this doesn't matter. Why does it matter? This has nothing to do with the character. This is like, okay, at least it had like something to do with something. Like there was a thread that they were trying for here, and I got the thread, and I was like, I like this.
Oh man,
Are you gonna pick up issue 2?
No,
no issue 2?
No.
Oh no.
This was just babbling on a page for me. Once we got to those villains, I was like, I am done with this. I did not like that her dad was in some armored freaking he was like some armored police car. Like, it reminded me
interesting. It was a callback to when they were against each other.
No, but but it was a ripoff from like Bunny Robo Batman from DC Comics. Like,
the look was. But what was interesting about that was that you saw the difference between Gwen from Earth 65 and her dad, Captain Stacy, and this one, because he's only cares about Gwen. He's like, I'll do everything for you. Yes. And then that was like
all about Gwen. His job.
Yeah, and I like that. I thought it was like, there's a story behind it.
The moments are so far and few between in this book. It is not even. It just.
Don't listen to Mike, guys. Pick up this book.
No,
it was a good one.
I know there's people out there that did not like this book. I can tell. I know it. Yeah.
I don't know. The comments say otherwise. There's so much Gwen love.
What? Look at this. These people are just in love with the character. That's why, not the story. How long is this book? How long is this series?
I think it's like 5 issues.
Oh, that's way too many. There's no way you're going to like this book 5 issues from now.
I'm not saying issue 2 is going to be good, but I liked issue 1.
Well, I know one person definitely agrees with me, and that's Tevia. So I got that on my side.
Tevia does agree with you. Some people haven't read it. A lot of people like the different perspectives. It doesn't happen that often. We usually are in agreement with books, but when it does happen, it is fun to discuss the 2 different sides. It happens more often with Brant. I will say that. There are times where Brant and me and Mike are like, Brant, how did you like Fantastic Four? And then he said, I had COVID. I actually didn't like it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens.
Last week he said it. Tizzy the Great says, Mike is saying deep down it was a waste of paper.
No. Look, I will say that for other multiverse books, but this one, there was a story, and they tried with the multiverse story. I think they did something with it.
There was a story, and that much of it was good. That's it.
It was at least this much. There was like this much that wasn't good.
Why? So why couldn't you do a story like this, but not have all these different multiverse Gwens? Like, why?
Oh, look, I agree with that. I agree with that. But
why can't we have a Spider-Gwen book that just focuses on Spider-Gwen and what she's dealing with, and not have it get canceled 800 times? We've had this character that's a fairly new character, right, at this point. And how many volumes has she had already, right? Is it
She's
because
had a lot. They're too scared to give her an ongoing for some reason
but
because they
and
haven't
and
been
you know
canceled,
what?
I don't think.
This is a character that has not been around all that long, where I feel like if the right writer can come around, we can write her for a very long time. So I don't know what the problem is. I feel like the ball's in your court here. Like the stories are endless. She comes from a different universe. You can do whatever you want basically with her.
Maybe it's an editorial thing. I feel like there's exactly what you said. There's so much that could be do with Spider-Gwen, but she is so tied into the Spider-Verse in these movies. They're probably too scared to do anything. They're like, oh, we can't step on toes.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with it, but I won't be reading. And
I'll let you know. I hope I still continue to enjoy
I'll
it.
tell you what you tell me. You tell me next time how it is. And
I will. I will.
And if you tell me that issue 2 is good, then I still won't pick it up, and you can keep telling me how good it is.
I think if you didn't like this issue, I don't think there's going to be anything that convinces you in issue 2. But I'm curious to see what Brant thought about this one. I feel like he liked it.
He thinks so? I don't
I think so. I think Brant actually loved it.
If this is the best you can offer off of the very first issue, right? And you yourself didn't like 4 pages of it.
It was only 4 pages.
You took that's 4 pages.
But I really like a
book.
Stuff.
If you like a book, you like all of it. And if you didn't like 4 pages, you know what's going to happen next issue? You're going to hate 8 pages of it.
If they focus on these villains a lot and don't make them interesting, that's where I'm worried. But the cliffhanger with that Night Gwen person, I liked her one shot from last year. So I'm like, that's interesting.
I don't know. We'll see. Looking at the cover, I'm kind of excited to see this Captain Marvel Gwen.
Thank you. All excitement. That's all I'm hearing.
That's great.
All this
cover
positivity
art is always fantastic, and it will always sell a book. We know that, guys. You should know that with all the variant covers that are
Hellfire
out there. Gala. I mean, sex sells, great cover art sells, and they do it all the time. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Or do. I would pick it up.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Joker issue 13.
I think we'll be on the same page with this. Let's see.
This book, I like the action of it, but there was no story. I read it.
No story.
I read it and I'm like, wait, it's over? I was kind of like how it was with Devil's Reign. I'm like, it's done. I'm like, Vengeance comes here and punches people's heads off with one shot, and they like retreat and they start stabbing her with forks and everything. And before you know it, it's over. And you got Joker who's like trying to persuade Vengeance on not to kill him. So even though she was sent out to kill him, right? I mean, I don't know.
This was definitely the definition of setting the stage. There was just literally this issue was like, we need everybody in this one spot. How do we get them there? And I'm like, man, I wish that didn't happen in this issue. And then you just like had one panel to explain this is how they all got there, because it literally was just physical movement to get everybody into this one spot, and that was this issue.
Where did this book go, man? I mean, this book in the beginning was such
a Substack, because Tynion left TC.
This had such a great story plot, right? Mysterious woman that hires Jim Gordon to go out and kill the Joker. Right? Has unlimited funds to get it, a private jet. Let's go out there. Let's go after him. And once he landed and went to the mansion, it like all went south from there. And I just, man, oh man. Oh, here, what's his comment? Nah, Mike, can't get with you on that. If you love a book, you like every page. If you like a book, you leave wiggle room for improvement.
I agree.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll give you that one. I still don't think Kat will like the next issue, though.
I hope I do. I hope I like it.
I hope you do.
I don't know if I'll love it.
I hope you do, because I don't want you to waste money, right? But I don't think you will.
I'm ready. I will waste all the money. Even if this is bad, I'm going to read all 5 issues of Spider-Gwen into the Gwenverse.
But yeah, Joker just, I don't know, man. Like I said, once issue 14 happens, I'm done with it forever. There's no reason to carry on with it at that point. That definitely just went down. It's really sad disappointment. They could have went in so many such a better direction with this.
It was about Jim more. Even Jim wasn't the main character
But
anymore.
now
Like, it was
Jim
originally Jim.
Yeah, even Jim is falling off of it now a little bit. Like,
no one's the main character anymore. It's just like,
Yeah.
here's these rich people we're gonna focus for 6 pages, and
they're
then
they're like a
mentions.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, people. They're cannibals. They eat
Yeah.
fingers and eyeballs, and you got to see their history of like how they got all their money, and I don't know. It's kind of sad. All right, so let's go on. Let's talk about where are we at here now?
2, I think.
2? Okay. What was your number 2?
Mine was Naomi. We already talked about it.
All right, cool. If you tell me that Gwenverse was your number 1 book, I
who knows?
All right. Number 2 for me was and hopefully people agree with me on this one. If they don't agree with me on
if you say Amazing Spider-Man, I'm going to disagree.
Oh, hell no. That didn't make the top 5.
That actually, I think, made my least favorite book this week, which was
Did it
shocking.
really?
Yeah, it was my least favorite book this week.
My number 2 was Devil's Reign Moon Knight issue 1.
Okay, I don't read that, so.
Okay, so really, I don't know why they tie it into Devil's Reign, really, because you did this was just Moon Knight in jail. And the whole reason why he's in jail is because he was sent out, and you don't realize this until the end of the comic book, but he was to go after this guy. What was his name? Something Marco, whatever it is. And to give a warning to him, something because, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It had to do something with his daughter. His daughter was growing up to, I think he was trying to come out of jail or whatever it was so he can go after his daughter. So Moon Knight purposely went into jail to send a message to this guy and to be like, yeah, you're not going to mess. You're never going to see your daughter ever again. He like literally pokes his eyeballs out. And it was really cool because you get to see how tough Moon Knight actually is. Like, he had to challenge all these people to get in the ring to fight this one villain that was in this jail. Really, really good book. I thought it was outstanding character work. Really got to see how tough the Moon Knight character is and how sick and demented he can be to get his message across to this villain who was going to get his daughter to like work alongside with him in the future and whatnot. So it was a really great book. You did not have to read the current story to understand this book, the Moon Knight series, or the Devil's Reign book to understand this book.
That's always good.
Phenomenally written. And I recommend this as just a one shot for people to kind of get to know what Moon Knight, what type of character he actually is. So really cool stuff. All right. So what do we got here? We got a comment. What's it say?
We do.
Kat, thoughts on Miss Marvel trailer? For me, I still dislike the purple power construct. Some might defend, but I can't bring myself to like it. I'm sorry.
We discussed it a bit before. I'm ready to watch it. I was expecting to love the trailer, so I was a little disappointed on that, but want to see where it goes.
Yeah. I think you can't have a true, understanding until you see more, maybe another full trailer, a little bit more understanding that way, or yes, until you actually watch it. Right.
An interesting example of that is Naomi. I didn't like that trailer at all for the TV show, and I ended up giving the pilot a shot, and I thought it was good. Like, I liked it. Like, it didn't give me enough where I was like, I gotta watch the rest of the season. But I was like, I thought the trailer undersold it. So you really never know with the trailer. It could undersell it, could oversell it. So
right, absolutely, make a good point. All right, so the next one we're talking about here, it's Amazing Spider-Man.
We very referenced it.
Issue 92.
This was even worse than the last issue, I would say. Like, this one went nowhere quick. What happened
It's
at the
not
end of
good.
this issue?
He was fighting sandwiches, Kat.
No, he was fighting sandwiches. And also Ben Riley just like has the same story that he's been having. He's like, oh no, gotta get my memories. I'm like, we've talked about this before. We understand.
Yeah, he needs his memories. Monica Rambeau goes missing. And now you're going to get the point beyond issue where you're going to find out what happens to her. And I'm going to buy it just because I buy every single Spider-Man book. And I don't know, man. The lizard creature was Lizard and Morbius combined, right?
They got to sell that Morbius movie.
I guess. There was a comical moment where, what did you say her name was? Helen Wig? Was that her name?
Oh, I don't even remember her
name. The girl in the white. The white.
Oh, Colin. Yeah, Colin.
Yeah.
Wing.
He was like, hey, Mike, let's go. And he's like, call me Michael or Dr. Morbius. And she's like, all right, Mike, let's go. That was the best part of the book for me. That was it. Like, she was ragging on his name.
This felt like a very filler arc, sadly. And I just wish Kelly Thompson had a bigger story to tell for this, because I would love to see her Spider-Man. And I just feel like this is like, you have to hit this beat, and this beat, write this issue. It didn't really feel like a Kelly Thompson issue to me.
And I get like the whole issue with Ben Riley about him having his memories messed up, right? Like, I get that.
Just don't repeat yourself,
but the story is just like it's gone on too long, and we don't need that. And again, when it's a book that is trying to be a more serious tone, but then you add that comedic humor to it, the over the top stuff, it doesn't fit, right? I mean, it just doesn't work. You don't have a real serious tone book and then add these hysterical jokes, or you're trying to put this, this type of humor. Sometimes when you have darker books or a darker tone book, it's like you insert like light humor or maybe like a dry humor moment, something that's more organic, not where it seems so forced, So I just didn't like that. So definitely disappointing. And that's how most of the Beyond arc has been in general.
Save like one arc. Yeah, save the Queen Goblin arc.
Yeah, exactly. And why? Because Peter was in that book. He was in that arc. And it was about him. It wasn't about Ben.
Or Lizard, who's Morbius now.
Right, exactly. I bought 3 books from the current Amazing Spider-Man run, 88, 89, and 90. And I regret nothing.
Oh, no, those are the good ones. Oh, you regret nothing. Good.
Yeah. That's all you needed. Those are the ones that you would want to buy, Yeah. But when you look at Kat and myself, we suffered through the whole Nick Spencer run. And then going into this as well.
This is better than that. This was, I would say, with the Nick Spencer stuff, I really disliked almost every issue. This is like, I like a little bit of fun. Like you said, there was that one joke in this issue. Right. And honestly, like it's been stronger than the Nick Spencer stuff, in my opinion.
This is not nearly as long and drawn out, like who Kindred was. Nick Spencer stuff, we talked about before in the beginning, was good. Before they focused on Kindred, they had story arcs that was actually fun and exciting, but as it got towards Kindred, that's when it kind of fell down the shitter for me. So we got the point issue in 93 and we're done. Then we go into the new one. All right. So let's go forward now with our number 1.
What do you think mine is?
It can't be Gwen.
It's Gwen. I was surprised with this book. I was like, I had no expectations for this book. And I was like, you know what? This that story. It did.
How many comics did you read?
I had 16.
Out of all 16 books.
Hell yeah.
That was your number 1 book.
Number 1.
Better than Thor. Better than Punisher.
Yeah.
Even though you're not a Punisher fan, you had to show some bias to it because it's Gwen.
I mean, yeah. I haven't had one in a while. But all right. If I had to rank it out of no, because everything we rank is personal bias. If I had to rank no personal bias, is Punisher the better written book? Yeah. But was Spider-Gwen the book I enjoyed more? Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so mine was Punisher.
Okay.
And
which was a great book. And it was in my top 5. Number 3.
I'm not a Punisher fan, but this surprised the hell out of me. This for me was a great book. And this was a book where it was interesting enough to get me to read a character I don't normally read. And that's for me, that's what makes a number one book. And I love when a book does that. It's the same thing that happened with Immortal Hulk, right? Always Hulk for me, it was always an up and down character. He's cool, but what were you going to do to make him different? And when Immortal Hulk came out, I was like, hell yeah, I'm on board with this, because they made it horrific tone. They get crazy artwork in it, and this is kind of that same thing, you know. Where it goes from here, who knows? But at least it got me interested in reading issue 2, and this is a way you do in issue 1. And that's why I liked it so much. So good stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about issue 2 when it does come out. So Randy says there's a Punisher book. I will say in a normal instance, I don't think I would have known there's a Punisher book because it's just Punisher. But there's so much talk about this book because of the whole sword thing. So I was like, I gotta try this out. There's a lot of
Serenity. It came out this past comic book week. If you can, go ahead and read it. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because Serenity is always like a lot of times opposite from us. Mm-hmm. So I'm very curious to see what he would think about this, especially since he's not into the character like I am or like Kat is. So I'd love to see that.
A lot of people are talking about this Han and Chewie book. 2 people said it was so good.
Really? Yeah, I decided to pass on it. I just I looked at it and I thought, you know, it might be cool, but I was like, I got 23 books. Like, I could not read another book this week. I was just I read a lot, man. I read a lot. Most I've read in quite a while in 1 week.
Most I read in 1 day in a while. So that was a long day for me.
That is a lot. Yeah. All right. So let's I think we're going to jump into the most anticipated now, right? Yes. So all right, Kat, what's your most anticipated for next week?
All right. So mine, my number 3 is Nightwing issue 90, because we are starting a new arc. It is with Flash, but I'm curious because the Teen Titans appeared a few issues ago, and I was like, that was really good. If it's in the same vein as that, I'm interested to see where that's going to go. And also, I think there's more of a story to tell with Wally and Nightwing, just because they have such a long history.
Sure. Yeah, I can understand that. I just want Nightwing to get back though to the main story.
Yeah, right? No, definitely agree on that.
That's
and also there's only 8 books this week, so it's a little hard.
Right. I mean, you can team up with whoever the heck you want to team up with, right? But just do the main story. That's all I ask.
Yeah, hopefully we get back to that. My other one that I am honestly very excited for is Slumber issue 1. The premise sounds pretty interesting. It's this girl who is a nightmare hunter and a dream detective. Yes. So it's kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I just thought it was a cool concept, and the cover looked cool.
Yeah, it does. I'm excited for that book as well. Definitely excited for that.
So the last one that we're both obvious number ones for this week is Batman Superman World's Finest issue 1. It's what's his face? Mark Waid returning to DC Comics. It's Dan Mora. Yes. It's Batman and Superman teaming up together. Yeah, very, very excited for this one.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really looking forward to it. I think I remember something happens with Superman that he's looking for Batman's help, something where he gets super overpowered, or I feel like we've read that story before when Superman was about to explode. Remember that when John Romita Jr. did that story? But it seems like something like that happens to him and he needs Batman's help. But again, Mark Waid's writing it and Dan Mora is on the art. So can't deny those two. Really curious to see what Mark Waid has to write. Haven't seen him write a DC comic in a long time.
Even a comic, honestly. I don't remember last time I read a Mark Waid comic.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. All right. So we'll go with my number 3 and number 2. We have Carnage, new series getting ready to come out. Always on board with the new Carnage series. Again, could have been a little bit different if we had more books this week. And then we have Scorch. I think it's issue 4, actually, not issue 3. But that's the Avenger-esque Spawn book that's coming out. $2.99. Lots of action in it. Crazy thing is, in that book right now, they're doing battle against Russians. It's
Whoa. Yeah,
insane.
definitely on
Yeah.
time, on
And the
brand.
Russians actually have they're using the power of the spawn called Plague Spawn, where they took okay, so it is 3. They took like syringes and they sucked his symbiotic fluid from him and they inject it into themselves and they become like symbiotic creatures themselves. So it has very much like Venom vibe to it. But that's what the Russians do with this with this character's stuff. It's so weird, man. But it's a cool book. It's very interesting, and I like it. And of course, number 1, like we said, Batman Superman, World's Finest. Definitely looking forward to that. Next week sounds like a big one with Venom during a Venom run.
Is Venom itself coming out next week too?
Venom, not tomorrow. The following week is Lethal Protector comes out.
Okay.
And it's written by David Michelinie, the longtime Amazing Spider-Man writer.
Nice. So yeah, that's interesting.
Back in the 90s and the 80s.
It's my dad was getting something out of the freezer. I was like, man, what noise is that? He's still trying to grab something out of there. So if you hear any noise.
Now, Kat, anyways, yeah. Before we wrap up, since there were so many other books, was there anything else that disappointed you or
just to talk about? Let's read through. I'm trying to see. I liked Hawkeye Kate Bishop. I thought that ended pretty well. That was overall a fun book. You know, we had like Cassie Lang join. We had America Chavez, so that was fun. Other than that, there wasn't anything else that was noteworthy for me.
I tell you one book I was disappointed with.
Which one?
Sabretooth issue 2.
Oh, really? You really liked issue 1?
The first one I really liked, and the second one was just some random characters that come in that Professor X and everybody send down to hell, and it was bad. It was really, really bad. I did not enjoy.
You're not getting the next issue.
Yeah. Oh no. See, BTG agrees with me. Sabretooth 2 was a huge disappointment. It had such a different tone from what it was in that first issue. It was just disappointing. It's all going to lead up to where Sabretooth is going to get free, obviously, I think. But it was another person. Not good.
Well, that's interesting with issue 1 sometimes. Like you set up in your pitch so much for an issue 1, you write out your issue 1 so much because you're like, I want this to be picked up. Maybe not as much with Marvel and DC. That's why you have such good issue 1s, and sometimes issue 2s fall down a little bit because like, oh yeah, now I got to write this next issue.
Yeah. So that was probably one of my biggest disappointments coming from an issue 1 going to an issue 2, and I hate to say it, but I'm probably going to drop that too. So,
we do have, and also there's so many books coming out. So you do have to kind of, especially with how many issue 1s came out this week, you got to drop some books, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did have a question from Tizzy. Is anyone reading Catwoman? I've been really curious about picking up the current run. I've heard good things. I haven't been picking it up myself though.
I as of late, I think a lot of people read it up until Ram V left it, and now
he's left now.
Yeah, and now we have a different writer, and I forgot who it is. And it's kind of funny. I still only collect it for the covers because a lot of times Jenny Frison does the cover art for it, and they're gorgeous covers. but I don't read the stories.
Yeah, I haven't read Catwoman in probably since issue 1, so I haven't been reading it. Even the Ron V stuff, even when that was going on, it wasn't like a plot point where I was like, I need to go pick this up.
Right. Tizzy goes, no chop block, or do I miss it? So we actually got rid of that segment because there's a lot of times where when we're discussing the comics, we already discuss if we're going to continue with the series or not. So we felt like we would be repeating ourselves. So that's why we got rid of it. So
same for Under the Radar. We rather have had like this most anticipated top 3 because we were able to like actually talk about like which books we're really excited for. So even when we just did the regular most anticipated, it was just more of like, oh, what books we're gonna read, tomorrow. Now we actually have like a finite, like this is actually what we're looking forward to. So we, we switch stuff up a little bit.
Right. I like to do that.
Yeah, so, make things fresh.
That's it. That's all we got for tonight, right? So you have anything to mention, Kat, before we leave?
For once, no. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks there will be. I have a Comic-Con coming up soon, but right now things are a little slower, which is always good. It's take a little bit of a break. I will say, obviously, go check out my best comics of the week. I always do that every Wednesday. So if you are looking for comic reviews on the day they come out to help you pick out your comics, go check that out.
All right. And then, of course, tomorrow, guys, I got new comic book day coming out. What's my haul going to be like next week or tomorrow? I don't know. We'll see. There's not much to buy. So would I get in new comics? I'm not sure. Last week I picked up this cool 9.8 Amazing Spider-Man slab over here. So I was happy to get that. But you never know what I could get. This could be the lightest week that I've had in a very long time. So stay tuned for that. And of course, after the poll on Thursday, and then
you might be able to review all your comics those days. Who
knows I
with
might.
That one?
I don't know. It just depends what kind of time I have on, between tomorrow and Thursday. Like usually I make it like 8 books is like the limit that I do. And then I read the rest from there. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of time I have. Because if I do only have like 8 or 10 books, I could do maybe.
Might read it through.
Yeah. See what happens.
So. All right, guys. I would have the banner up, but I can't find it. So just go subscribe, go like, go do all the things. Brant's not here, so we're not going to be fancy this week. But we will see you guys next week.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Of course, guys, if you like this video, you know what you got to do. You got to give it a thumbs up. Let people know that this whole thing exists. You're going to give it a bell so you don't miss any notifications, right? So hit the bell. And, of course, guys, follow us on our social media, Facebook, Instagram. What else do we have?
YouTube. God. Twitter, YouTube.
Yep, all that stuff. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Subscribe to my channel, Comic Book Corner 2.0. Subscribe to Comic Book Weekly. And the reason why you want to subscribe to Comic Book Weekly is because not only can you watch this week's episode of the show, but that's the place where you can watch all of the episodes.
Yeah, you get a nice feed. It's very all in one place.
Yeah, you can watch from a long time ago. So go ahead and check that out as well. So guys, until next time, this is Kat, myself, signing off. Brant will be back. Have a great week. Happy New Comic Book Day. Enjoy those books, guys. Take care. Good night.